Chapter 27. Third-person POV. The air in the shrine was heavy, thick with the scent of blood and ash, a suffocating reminder of Tempest's fall. Riken knelt beside Akari's lifeless form, his fingers lingering on her cold cheek, her serene expression a cruel echo of the vibrant soul she'd been. The faint hum of the compound barrier above pulsed like a heartbeat, trapping the souls of the fallen in a liminal space between life and death. Eren's words, fragile as gossamer, hung in the air a fairy tale, a whisper of hope that dangled just out of reach. Riken's hands clenched, his heart a battlefield of despair and determination. A fairy tale, yes, but if the chance to save his people was greater than zero, he would chase it to the ends of the earth. Eren's voice trembled as she recounted the legend from the sorceress dynasty of Sarian, her elven ears peeking through her hair, a revelation that deepened the weight of her words. It's a story of a girl and a dragon, the dragon princess, born from the bond between a human and a dragon. Her father gifted her a baby dragon, her only friend. But a greedy king, coveting her power, killed the dragon. Driven by grief and rage, the princess unleashed her fury, destroying nations and slaughtering thousands. Her rampage awakened her as a true demon lord. In that moment, a miracle occurred: her dragon was resurrected. But it wasn't the same. It rose as a chaos dragon, a soulless beast of pure destruction, its will consumed by instinct. The princess, heartbroken, sealed her friend's remains with her own hands. That was her first act as a demon lord. Riken's mind raced, piecing together the implications. The dragon princess, Milam. The story's weight settled over him, a chilling parallel to his own grief. Naming monsters granted them power. Evolution. Could his own evolution as a demon lord bring back Akari, Noah, and the others? But at what cost? There's no point if they return as mindless creatures, he murmured, his voice tight with doubt. Eren nodded, her eyes shadowed with understanding. The key is the soul. The Chaos Dragon lost its will because its soul was gone. Without the soul, there's no consciousness, no self. Less than affirmative. The soul is the root that establishes oneself, encompassing both the soul and the astral body containing it. Greater than Great Sage interjected, its clinical tone a stark contrast to the turmoil in Riken's heart. Riken's gaze lifted to the shimmering barrier overhead, its translucent surface a prison for the souls of his people. The Chaos Dragon became a beast because its soul was damaged, consumed by rage. But Akari, Noah, the others, their souls might still be intact, trapped by this barrier. A spark of hope ignited, fragile but fierce. Less than report. Souls typically disperse upon death, but the dual barriers may have preserved them. Probability of intact souls, 3.14%. Greater than 3%, Riken whispered, his lips curling into a grim smile. As long as it's not zero, it's enough. He turned to Eren, gratitude warring with the weight of her sacrifice. By sharing this tale, she'd exposed herself to scrutiny from Sarian, risking her freedom for his people. Thank you, Eren. You've given me something to hold on to. Eren's expression softened, but there was a flicker of fear in her eyes. Riken-san, I need to be honest. My full name is Ariun Grimwald. I'm of Sarian's royal line. Only a few in my homeland know this story. It's a closely guarded secret. If you pursue this path, if you become a demon lord, they'll trace it back to me. I'll likely be summoned home, maybe punished. Riken's eyes widened. Royalty. You left Sarian for this. He gestured vaguely at her companions, Kaval and Guido, who stood awkwardly nearby. No, no way, Kaval and Guido said in unison, waving their hands defensively. We're her bodyguards, Kaval added, scratching his head. Letting Our Lady wander alone would be too dangerous. Eren sighed, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Though following Kaval feels like the real danger sometimes. He's always poking monster nests to check them out. That's not poking, it's investigating. Kaval protested, while Guido groaned, it's reckless, Kaval. Riken couldn't help a faint chuckle, the warmth of their camaraderie a brief respite from the darkness. You three are closer than I thought, he said. Thank you, Eren. I won't let your sacrifice be in vain. Stay as long as you can see this through. Eren nodded, her resolve firm. Call if you need us, she said, leading her companions out of the shrine. The door closed with a soft thud, leaving Riken alone with the bodies and his thoughts. A demon lord, he muttered, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. Less than report. The individual Riken Tempest has already gained a demon lord seed, acquired upon devouring the orc disaster. With sufficient conditions, evolution to a true demon lord is possible. Greater than asterisk. What What conditions? Riken asked, startled. Less than the seed indicates you meet the basic requirements: magical energy, skills, and potential. The conditions for awakening require nutrients, the souls of over 10,000 humans. Greater than asterisk. Riken's breath caught. 10,000 human souls. The number was staggering, a moral abyss he wasn't sure he could cross. His human sensibilities, shaped by a past life and the wisdom of his senpai, recoiled at the thought. What would senpai do in my place? He murmured. The answer was clear: survival of the fittest ruled this world. His people had followed his dream of coexistence, and it had led to their slaughter. He couldn't let that idealism blind him again. I'm sorry, Akari, he whispered, his voice trembling as he gazed at her still form. You might not agree with this, but I have to settle this myself. He turned to No's body, the black-haired warrior's chest pierced by a blade, his face frozen in defiant resolve. Hey, champion, Riken said, his voice cracking. You might hate what I'm about to do. I'm not strong enough to lose my family again. His hand reached out, brushing No's cold cheek, and a faint pulse of energy caught his attention. Great sage, analyze him. Less than cannot analyze. Analyze failed. Recommend using less than gluttony greater than asterisk. Less than gluttony greater than asterisk. Riken intoned, black smoke billowing from his hand as it enveloped No's body, drawing it into his internal storage. Less than report. No's soul remains within his body. An unknown phenomenon has severed the connection between his physical and spiritual forms. Greater than asterisk. Can I heal him? Reconnect them? Riken asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Less than insufficient data on the phenomenon. The soul is trapped in a dead vessel, unable to be healed. The soul's energy is destabilizing. Greater than asterisk. Riken's laughter was bitter, tinged with hysteria. So he's dead, but not dead. Still fighting, huh, champion? A wild idea sparked in his mind, reckless and untested. Great sage, what are the odds of success if I seek out beings with knowledge of souls? Less than cannot calculate precisely, but the probability is high. Entities with advanced soul knowledge exist, though their cooperation is uncertain. Greater than asterisk. A grin spread across Riken's face, equal parts hope and madness. He rose, his gaze sweeping over the bodies in the shrine. He sprinted toward the plaza where the human attackers' bodies lay, their corpses a grim reminder of the battle. Riken's Pav. The plaza was a charnel house, a grim tableau of Falmouth's fallen knights. Their armor, dented and bloodstained, gleamed dully under the flickering light of Tempest's shattered lanterns. Blood pooled beneath them, seeping into the cracked cobblestones, their faces frozen in death's rictus. My heart thundered, a volatile mix of rage, grief, and a desperate hope driving me forward. No's soul, caught in that liminal state, was a lifeline, a chance to undo the unthinkable. I knelt beside a knight, his lifeless eyes staring blankly at the sky, his sword still clutched in a rigid hand. Great sage, analyze their souls. Are they intact? Less than analysis complete. Souls have dispersed due to the absence of protective barriers. No viable soul energy remains. Greater than asterisk. Damn it, I hissed, my fists tightening until my knuckles ached. The human souls were gone, scattered like ash on the wind. But No's condition was different, a thread of possibility in a tapestry of loss. I needed answers, entities who understood the soul's intricate machinery, beings older and wiser than anything in Tempest. My gaze hardened, fixed on the horizon. Whatever it took. For Noah, for Akari, for all of Tempest, I'd become the demon lord they needed, even if it meant staining my soul with blood. Third-person Pav. In a realm of endless darkness, where light and form ceased to exist, No's soul sat cross-legged in the void. His short black hair was disheveled, his black eyes burning with a storm of emotions: frustration, sorrow, and unyielding rage. His teeth ground together, the sound sharp in the suffocating silence. TCH. Damn it, Arthur Renard, you'll pay for this, he snarled, his voice echoing in the emptiness. He was helpless, a spectator to the slaughter of his people, his friends, cut down by Falmouth's knights while he could only watch. The memory of Riken's anguished face, holding back a tide of grief, tore at him. Riken-sama, it's gut-wrenching, seeing him like that while I'm stuck here, useless. His fists clenched, nails biting into his palms. A sudden shift in the void snapped his attention upward. A figure materialized, its presence a crushing weight that made the darkness itself tremble. Red eyes glowed like twin embers, white hair flowing like a spectral flame. The aura was unmistakable, an archdemon, its power a maelstrom of terror and malice. Noah rose, his grin wide and reckless, his eyes alight with defiance. So this is how it's gonna be. Fine, I swore I'd fight for what matters, no matter the cost. I failed once, but if this demon offers a second chance, I'll take it. His voice dropped, steely and resolute. I don't care what it takes. I won't lose them again. Riken's paw. The outskirts of Tempest stretched before me, a desolate expanse scarred by battle, the air heavy with the lingering stench of blood and ash. The compound barrier shimmered overhead, its translucent dome a mocking cage that trapped the souls of my people. I stood over a field of fallen human soldiers, nearly 50 bodies, their armor dented and bloodied. Noah knelt before me, his black hair streaked with white highlights, his crimson eyes gleaming with a strange vitality. His resurrection was a miracle born of desperation, a gamble that had paid off in ways I hadn't dared hope. How are you feeling? I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil churning within me. Noah tested his limbs, flexing his hands, a wide smile breaking across his face. Good, Riken-sama, but the smile faded, replaced by a shadow of grief and guilt. He bowed his head, his voice heavy. I'm sorry, this happened on my watch. I met his gaze, my expression unyielding. I know you fought with everything you had, Noah. But I'm not happy with the outcome. There's a chance, a slim one, but it's there. Just as I brought you back, there's a way to save the others. I won't let this slip away. I won't make the same mistake twice. Do you understand? He nodded, his crimson eyes hardening with resolve. The process had been a risk, a plunge into the unknown. I had dragged the human corpses outside the barrier, their bodies a grim offering to summon a high-ranking demon. I'd forced it into Noah's lifeless form, hoping to stabilize his unstable soul energy. The demon had fought to seize control, to shatter Noah's soul and claim the vessel for itself. But Noah's will was unbreakable, his soul a blazing fortress. Instead of destruction, their essences merged, the demon's power fusing with Noah's spirit, restoring him to life. Now, he stood before me, a living testament to the impossible. Let's go, I said, my voice clipped. We have matters to discuss. Noah rose with a determined nod, and we turned toward Tempest, the city's ruins looming like a wound in the earth. As we passed through the barrier, its oppressive weight pressed against my senses, a reminder of the forces arrayed against us. Riken-sama, Sasaki's voice crackled through the sticky steel thread, urgent and strained. Sasaki, what's happened? I asked, my heart tightening. Trainee Dono reports that Falmouth and the Western Saints Church are invading. Their combined forces number around 20,000. I froze, a cold smile curling my lips. 20,000, perfect, my lord. Sasaki's confusion was palpable. I plucked a small pink flower from the cracked cobblestones, twirling it between my fingers before crushing it in my fist. The act felt symbolic, a release of the rage simmering beneath my calm. Just talking to myself, I said, my voice colder than I remembered. It's a relief to have exactly what I need, and more. Less than report. Analysis of the barriers complete. The less than anti-magic area greater than can be undone, but the composite barrier weakening monsters is highly resistant. Greater than asterisk. I frowned. The composite barrier was the real threat, sapping our strength and leaving us vulnerable. Not yet, asterisk, I told Great Sage. Undoing the magic barrier now might let the souls disperse. More importantly, asterisk, I raised my hand, summoning a third barrier, its energy weaving into the existing structure with a low hum. It was a desperate measure to trap the souls of the fallen, to buy time. Asterisk less than report. Unclear wavelength reacting to the third barrier detected. Suspected coded electrical signal. Shall I decipher? Greater than asterisk. Do it, I ordered, my mind racing. A signal. Was someone manipulating the barriers remotely? Riken-sama, Gobu Ryo and Kokuyu sprinted toward me, their faces a mix of relief and urgency. Their eyes flicked to Noah, a flicker of shock passing over them, but they said nothing. This new barrier, Kokuyu began, his voice cautious. I erected it, I said, cutting him off. It's to protect the souls. Gobu Ryo, gather everyone. We're holding a meeting to discuss our response to the humans and the resurrection of Akari and the others. Gobu Ryo's eyes widened, a sniffle escaping him as he processed my words. Yes, my lord, at once. He turned and ran, his massive frame moving with surprising speed. I glanced at Kokuyu, who chuckled softly. He wasn't as shocked as I expected. I thought he'd worry I'd lost my mind. He had a feeling, Kokuyu said, his smile warm but tinged with sorrow. We all did. If anyone can fix this, it's you. I returned his smile, though it felt brittle. Then let's start by questioning her Muroran and deciding her fate. The weight of the coming decisions pressed down on me, a storm of hope and vengeance brewing in my chest. Falmouth's army was coming, and with them, the souls I needed to awaken as a demon lord. The path was dark, but I would walk it for Akari, for Noah, for Tempest. Raiken's Pav. The streets of Tempest were a graveyard, each shattered cobblestone and smoldering ruin a testament to my failure. The compound barrier overhead pulsed like a malevolent heartbeat, its translucent surface trapping the souls of my people in a cruel limbo. The air reeked of blood and ash, a choking miasma that clung to my senses as Kokuyu led me through the desolate city to the inn where Majoran was confined. My heart was a storm of grief and rage, each step heavy with the weight of the 103 lives lost Akari and so many others whose faces haunted me. Yume and Grucius had insisted on staying with Majoran, their loyalty a complication I couldn't ignore, but their presence only sharpened the blade of my resolve. We entered the inn, its wooden walls scarred by the recent violence, the air inside stale and heavy. Majoran sat on the edge of a narrow bed, her green hair tangled, her eyes downcast but steady, as if bracing for judgment. Yume and Grucius stood nearby, their postures tense, their faces a mix of defiance and fear. I took a seat across from her, the creak of the chair loud in the oppressive silence. My gaze was cold, unyielding, as I fought to keep my emotions in check. You can begin, Majoran, I said, my voice a blade of ice, each word honed by the betrayal that had gutted my city. She met my eyes briefly, then spoke, her voice steady despite the weight of her confession. I am a follower of Demon Lord Clayman. I am Majoran, the ring finger of the 5 fingers. The name Clayman sent a shiver down my spine, a dark echo from the Orc Lord Crisis and Milam's tales of his manipulative cruelty. Go on, I prompted, my tone unyielding, my hands clenched in my lap to hide their trembling. My mission was to infiltrate Tempest as a spy. I used Yume to gain entry, she admitted, her words measured, as if navigating a minefield. Her eyes flicked to Yume, a flicker of guilt crossing her face before she continued. I was to observe and report, to weaken Tempest from within. I nodded, the pieces of her betrayal slotting into place. So, are you still reporting to Clayman? She shook her head, her expression grim. No, I have no means of contact. I'm a wizard, but in this less than anti-magic area greater than asterisk, I'm powerless, no different from a human. You created the less than anti-magic area greater than asterisk, I said, my voice sharpening, cutting through the air like a whip. How did you plan to escape it? Her silence was deafening, a confession in itself. I leaned forward, my eyes narrowing to slits. Clayman abandoned you, didn't he? Majoran's lips tightened, her hands clenching the edge of the bed. Clayman, the marionette master, manipulates his followers like puppets. To him, we're tools disposable when broken or unneeded. Her words struck a nerve, stirring a mix of pity and fury. I pressed further, my voice laced with skepticism. Why follow him, then? What could possibly make that worth it? Her gaze dropped, her voice softening with the weight of centuries. I was a human witch, persecuted and hunted. I fled to the forest, living alone for hundreds of years, my only solace in magical research. As my life neared its end, Clayman appeared with a crystal, offering eternal youth and endless time in exchange for loyalty. I was desperate, naive. He gave me a marionette heart, transforming me into a Majin. It replaced my human heart, binding me to him. He controls my life and death. I leaned back, crossing my arms, my glare unrelenting. Her story was tragic, but it didn't absolve her. So, because you couldn't face death, you plunged my people into this nightmare. Hey, now, Yume interjected, stepping forward, his face flushed with panic, his hands raised as if to shield her. Silence, Kokuyu snapped, his voice a low growl, his eyes flashing with warning. Raiken-sama speaks to her alone. Yume and Grucius froze, their protests dying under Kokuyu's steely glare. I turned back to Majoran, my voice cold as the void. What's Clayman's goal? Why target Tempest? Or did he send you here to be discarded? Majoran's expression tightened, her words careful, deliberate. I only have hypotheses based on his orders. I don't know if Clayman directly incited Falmouth, but the less than anti-magic area greater than asterisk was timed with their military action. It maximized the damage and isolated Tempest, preventing aid from Dworgen or Blumend. He wants war between Tempest and Falmouth, a narrative he can exploit. But his true motives, he shares those with few. The realization hit like a blow. Clayman's web was vast, his machinations a calculated strike to destabilize us. Vesta's research facility, outside the barrier's range, could call for help, but Falmouth's army was already closing in 20,000 strong, according to Sasaki. We were trapped, outmaneuvered, our backs against the wall. My mind raced, piecing together the stakes. Clayman's betrayal, Falmouth's invasion, the souls I needed to awaken as a demon lord. The path was dark, but it was the only one left. All right, I said, standing abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. I've heard enough, sir. Majoran's voice wavered, her eyes searching mine, a flicker of fear breaking through her composure. Majoran, I said, my voice a blade of ice, you'll have to die. Her submissive smile was a gut punch, acceptance and resignation in equal measure. Wait, you can't, Yume shouted, lunging forward, his eyes wild with desperation. Majoran's not a traitor. Don't waste your time, Yume, Grucius said, his voice grim as he shifted into his lichen form, muscles rippling with barely contained fury. His claws gleamed as he swung at me, a desperate bid to protect her. Kokuyu intercepted, catching the blow with a steely grip, his own strength a match for Grucius's ferocity. What are you doing, Yume? Grucius grunted, straining against Kokuyu. Get Majoran out of here. I've already lost once. I can't hold him long. Grucius, Yume yelled, grabbing Majoran's arm. Come on, move, but Majoran didn't take his hand. She stood, her movements slow, deliberate, and cupped his face gently, pressing a fleeting kiss to his lips. Yume froze, his breath catching, his eyes wide with shock. I loved you, Yume, she whispered, her voice breaking with the weight of centuries. In all my centuries, you're the first I've ever loved. Goodbye, don't let another wicked woman lead you astray. I see you're ready, I said, my voice devoid of warmth, my heart a storm of conflicting emotions, rage at her betrayal, pity for her manipulation. Noah moved like a shadow, pinning Yume against the wall by his throat, his crimson eyes glinting with restrained menace, his newly resurrected strength a quiet threat. Raiken-sama, please, Yume choked out, struggling against Noah's grip, his voice raw with desperation. I'll give you my life. Anything you want, just don't. His pleas fell on deaf ears. I conjured a mass of magicules in my hand, a swirling orb of dark, pulsating energy, its light casting eerie shadows across the room. With a swift motion, I drove it into Majoran's chest. She gasped, her body convulsing, her eyes dimming as the light flickered out. 3 seconds passed, an eternity of silence, the room holding its breath before she staggered, clutching her chest, bewilderment replacing her resignation. Asterisk less than notice. The individual Majoran's artificial heart is operating normally. Greater than asterisk. A relieved grin broke across my face, though my heart still raced with the audacity of the gamble. There, looks like it worked. Any problems? Huh, Majoran stammered, her hand pressed to her chest, feeling the steady beat beneath. I'm alive, but why? 3 seconds, I said, my tone lighter, though the tension lingered. You were dead for about 3 seconds. Yume and Grucius stared, dumbfounded, as Noah released Yume, who slumped against the wall, his breath ragged, his face a mix of relief and confusion. Raiken-sama, what the hell? Yume's voice shook, teetering between gratitude and exasperation. Settle down, I said, raising a hand, the weight of the moment still pressing on me. I'll explain. I gave them a moment to collect themselves, their shock a tangible presence in the room. The marionette heart Clayman gave you as a listening device, I said, holding up the shattered crystal, its faint glow extinguished, its surface cracked like broken glass. It was sending coded signals to him, spying on you. Your magical reports were a ruse to keep you compliant. You were never his ally, just a tool. I had to act like I was going to kill you to fool him before I destroyed it. Majoran's hand trembled over her chest, her eyes wide with disbelief. Then, what's beating here? An imitation heart, based on his design but free of his control, I said, my voice softening slightly. Clayman has no power over you now. Her shocked expression melted into tears, relief flooding her features as she pressed her hand harder against her chest, feeling the new rhythm of her life. Really, good for you, Majoran. Yume exclaimed, gripping her shoulders, his grin wide and genuine. You're free, you're a scoundrel, Raiken-sama, Yume added, half laughing, half scolding, his relief palpable. You could have warned me. I smirked, though the weight of the situation lingered. You were likely a hostage, Yume. Clayman abandoned her, but she kept following orders to protect someone, probably you. She had no reason to obey otherwise. Is that true? Yume asked, turning to her, his voice soft, vulnerable. Majoran's cheeks flushed, her voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to protect someone I cared about. I never answered your confession before, but, even with my freedom, I'd choose to be shackled again, if only for a human lifetime with you. Yume blinked, feigning obliviousness, though his grin betrayed him. Majoran-san, what exactly do you mean by that? You idiot, she muttered, swatting him, her face red as she buried it in her hands. I stifled a chuckle, the fleeting warmth of their exchange a stark contrast to the darkness outside. Grucius, back in human form, smirked despite his loss, earning a pitying pat from Kokuyu. I don't need your pity. He snapped, though his grin showed his resilience. Yume's human. 100 years, tops. Then I'll get my shot. Hell no. Yume roared, protective and flustered, pulling Majoran closer. Majoran turned to me, her eyes earnest, glistening with unshed tears. Riken-sama, no words can express my gratitude. If you want my loyalty, it's yours. No need for that, I said, waving her off, though my heart warmed at her sincerity. But I do need your magical expertise. And Yume, I have a role for you in the future. Why save me, though? She asked, her voice quiet, almost afraid of the answer. I caused so much harm. Charity, maybe, I said, glancing out the window at the ruined city, its scars a mirror of my own. But saving you secures Yume's help. And honestly, I'm curious about defying death. I want to see how many times I can cheat it. The meeting room was a stark contrast to the chaos outside, its polished wooden table and sturdy chairs a remnant of Tempest's lost order. The air was thick with tension as the survivors gathered Sakura, Hamiko, Laze, Kojira, Gribble, Gobu Ryo, and others, their faces etched with grief and determination. Noah stood at my side, his crimson eyes a silent reminder of the miracle I'd wrought, his resurrection a beacon of hope in this darkness. Gobu Ryo had gathered them swiftly, his efficiency a testament to his loyalty. Though his eyes still glistened with unshed tears. Sorry for worrying you all, I began, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. We're here to discuss our stance on humans and the resurrection of Akari and the others. The precondition for both is my evolution into a demon lord. Let's begin. I opened the floor, seeking their thoughts on humanity. Gobu Ryo spoke first, his voice heavy with righteous anger. I cannot forgive them. Their ambush was cowardly, dishonorable. I'd follow your lead, Riken-sama, but I have no respect for those who strike like vipers in the night. Sakura nodded, her eyes shadowed with distrust. I don't know if I can face humans the same way. There's no guarantee more won't hide among traitors or adventurers, waiting to betray us. Gribble, ever the optimist, countered, his voice firm despite his grief. I hate Falmouth's knights for killing Gozo and the others, but Yume and his crew. They're different. We've shared meals, trained together. And Noah fought for us. They're not like the rest. Thanks, Gribble, Yume said, his grin genuine, a flicker of warmth in the gloom. Noah nodded silently, his presence a quiet anchor. Gorbet added, his voice measured, Caval's group rushed to help us. They're trustworthy. We shouldn't lump all humans together. Some can be allies, but shouldn't we cut ties for now? I asked, testing their resolve, my heart aching at the thought of abandoning my dream of coexistence. That risks losing Blumen's trust, Gobu Ryo warned, his tone cautious but firm. We've built too much to throw it away. Their willingness to consider coexistence, even after such betrayal, was a balm to my soul. These were my family, bound not by blood but by shared dreams and sacrifices. I closed my eyes, gathering my thoughts, the weight of my past life pressing against me. I'm a former human, I said, my voice raw, vulnerable. Reincarnated as a slime from another world. I died in an accident with my wife, left alone in darkness until I became this. I ate grass, minerals, anything to survive. I met a friend, but we parted ways. Then I found you all my people, my family. You made me whole again. I thought alliances with Blumend and Dworgen meant other nations would follow. I stayed too long in Ingrasha, too naive to see the danger. Silence gripped the room, heavy and suffocating, until Hamiko spoke, her voice firm, resolute. No, Riken-sama, we relied on you too much. This slaughter is our shared failure, not yours alone. Kokuyu's voice was thick with regret. I was entrusted to protect Tempest, but I leaned on your strength, assuming you'd save us. My failure let this happen. Gorbet, Geld, and others chimed in, each claiming a piece of the blame, their voices a cacophony of guilt that mirrored my own. Kojira stood, his presence commanding, his sword-scarred hands clenched. Enough. No single person is to blame. Our shared negligence let those brutes in. Taking responsibility is good, but dwelling on it leads to despair. We need action. He was right. Blame wouldn't undo the past, wouldn't bring back Akari or the others. Becoming a demon lord will draw enemies, Noah warned, his crimson eyes piercing, his voice a low rumble. Most who try die. Let them come, I said, my voice iron, unyielding. If evolving saves Akari and the others, like it saved you, I'll face any demon lord who stands in my way. Third person Pav. Riken's decision was a line drawn in the blood-soaked earth, a vow etched in the ashes of Tempest. The path to Demon Lord required 10,000 human souls, a number that loomed like a specter, a moral abyss that threatened to swallow him whole. Falmouth's army, 20,000 strong, marched toward Tempest, a cruel coincidence that felt orchestrated, a gift wrapped in bloodshed. What a perfect opportunity, Riken muttered, his voice laced with dark resolve, his fingers tightening around the memory of the crushed pink flower. It's more planned than you think, Kokuyu said, his eyes narrowing, his fists clenched with barely suppressed rage. The first attack, the barriers, the Western Saints Church's involvement, it was a calculated strike, a trap set by Clayman's unseen hand. The Falmouth Knights' proclamation echoed in their minds, a chilling ultimatum: this land is contaminated with monsters. In 1 week, King Edmaris and the church will purge this evil. How long to prepare? Riken asked, his voice steady, though his heart pounded with the weight of what was to come. 1 night, Kokuyu replied, his voice burning with purpose, his eyes alight with the need to prove himself. We'll be ready by noon tomorrow. Riken nodded, his mind a whirlwind of strategy and desperation. He activated universal perception, his senses expanding like a tide, mapping the enemy's forces with preternatural clarity. The main army, led by King Edmaris, was a juggernaut of steel and malice. Smaller detachments flanked the city north, east, south, and west, each guarding a magical device that powered the barriers. Using perfect memory, Riken transformed the data into raw information, distributing it via soul corridors to his connected subordinates and thought communication to the rest. The strategy was clear: divide, conquer, and dismantle the barriers to free the trapped souls. Noah and I will take the main army with King Edmaris, Riken declared, his voice resolute, though his heart trembled at the thought of the bloodshed ahead. Sasaki stepped forward, his ninja-like attire blending with the shadows. I'll handle the north detachment with my team. Approved, Riken said, trusting Sasaki's precision. Kokuyu's eyes burned with vengeance. The east is mine, Lays. Riken turned to the Dragonute, whose scales glinted with fierce determination. Can you and your men take the south? Of course, Riken-sama. Lays roared, his voice a thunderclap of loyalty. We'll bring victory. The west detachment, heavily guarded to block escape to Bluemond, was led by 3 otherworlders, their presence a dark mirror of Riken's own origins. Kojira's eyes blazed with vengeance, his hand resting on his sword. I have a score to settle with one of them. Leave the west to me. I'll avenge Gozo, Gribble added, his fists clenched, his voice raw with grief. Hopton and Geld joined them, their resolve a steel wall against the enemy. Hamiko, Majoran, Riken said, turning to the mages, their faces pale but determined. I need you to create another barrier to protect the souls. I'll store them in my stomach if needed, but I won't risk mixing them with the nutrients for the Demon Lord seed. Yume, Grusius, and Caval's party would guard Tempest, a final line of defense against any surprises. The plan was set, a delicate balance of hope and violence. Riken returned to his house, the weight of tomorrow pressing down like a physical force. The path to resurrection was paved with blood, but for Akari, for the family he refused to lose again, he would walk it unflinching, even if it meant staining his soul forever. As Riken's figure disappeared through the doorway, the meeting room exhaled, the tension shifting like a tide. The gathered survivors began to disperse, their movements slow, weighed down by the gravity of the plan and the losses that had brought them here. Yume, Grusius, and Majoran were among the last to leave, their steps hesitant as they approached the door. Yume's arm was slung protectively around Majoran's shoulders, his face a mix of relief and lingering shock from her near-death ruse. Majoran's green hair fell in disarray, her expression haunted but softened by Yume's presence, her new heart beating free of Clayman's control. Grusius trailed behind, his usual bravado tempered by the weight of his earlier defeat, his lichen strength humbled by Kokuyu's intervention. The trio moved as a unit, their bond forged in the crucible of betrayal and redemption, but the air around them crackled with an undercurrent of unease. Before they could cross the threshold, a shadow loomed in their path. Noah stepped forward, his black hair streaked with white, his crimson eyes burning with a cold, unyielding intensity. His resurrected form radiated a quiet menace, the demon's power fused with his own soul, lending him an aura that was both familiar and alien. The torchlight glinted off his armor, casting his face in stark relief, every line etched with a grief that had hardened into resolve. He planted himself in front of the trio, his presence a wall of barely restrained fury. "If you even think about messing with them again," Noah said, his voice low, a blade of ice that cut through the room's lingering warmth, "I'll make you wish you were never born, you sorry piece of shit." His words were directed at Majoran, but his gaze swept over Yum and Grucius, pinning them in place. The air grew heavy, the weight of his threat pressing against their chests, a tangible force that made the room feel smaller, the shadows sharper. Majoran flinched, her hand tightening on Yum's arm, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and guilt. Yum's face paled, his protective instinct warring with the terror Noah's words invoked, his hand twitching toward his sword but hesitating, knowing he was outmatched. Grucius's jaw clenched, his lichen instincts bristling, but he remained still, the memory of Kokuyu's strength holding him back. The trio stood frozen, their breaths shallow, the silence stretching taut like a bowstring ready to snap. Noah didn't wait for a reply. His crimson eyes lingered on Majoran for a heartbeat longer, a silent promise of retribution should she falter again. Then he turned, his movements fluid yet deliberate, and strode out of the room, his boots echoing in the stillness. The door swung shut behind him, the sound a punctuation mark to his warning, leaving the trio in a vacuum of fear and uncertainty. Yum exhaled shakily, his arm tightening around Majoran. That was intense," he muttered, his voice trembling, a forced laugh failing to mask his unease. "He's different now, isn't he?" Majoran nodded, her eyes fixed on the door, her hand still pressed to her chest where her new heart beat. "He has every right to hate me," she whispered, her voice barely audible, thick with the weight of her actions. "I brought this upon Tempest. If not for Raikin-sama's mercy." "Don't," Grucius cut in, his voice gruff but not unkind. He ran a hand through his hair, his smirk strained. "You're free now. Clayman's hold is gone. Focus on making it right." His words were meant to comfort, but they carried an edge, a reminder of the fragile trust she'd yet to fully earn. Majoran's lips trembled, tears welling in her eyes as she nodded. "I will," she said, her voice firm despite the quiver. "For Yum, for Tempest, for myself." Yum squeezed her shoulder, his own fear giving way to determination. "We're in this together," he said, his voice steadier now. "No's scary as hell, but he's on our side. We'll prove ourselves, all of us." Grucius snorted, a flicker of his usual bravado returning. "Yeah, well, let's not give him a reason to make good on that threat. I'd rather not find out what a demon-fused Noah can do." The trio stepped into the hallway, the inn's creaking floorboards a stark contrast to the silence they left behind. Outside, Tempest's ruins loomed, the compound barrier casting an eerie glow over the shattered city. The weight of No's warning lingered, a shadow over their resolve, but it also steeled them. They had roles to play: Yum, Grucius, and Caval's party as Tempest's last line of defense, Majoran as a key to preserving the souls of the fallen. The battle loomed, a crucible that would test their loyalty, their courage, and their redemption. As they moved through the streets, the distant sound of preparations clanging metal, shouted orders, the hum of magic underscored the tension gripping Tempest. The survivors were rallying, driven by Raikin's vision and the slim hope of resurrection. But No's words echoed in their minds, a reminder of the cost of betrayal and the fragility of trust in a city on the brink of war. To be continued.